my parents come from Serramato, which is a village majorly of the Keen subgroup tribes, and they moved. My father went to college in Khartoum during the colonial time. It was called Gordon College at the time. Now it's called University of Khartoum. And except for my eldest siblings, all of us were, six of us were born in Khartoum. But as all Nubians are, we have a very tight links with our families and friends and the village. We learned Nubians. I mean, I tell you a story about my grandmother who came early with my mother and aunt because she didn't have any other children. When they moved to Khartoum, she came to Khartoum. And I've known her all her life. She never spoke anything but Nubian. And one of these days we said, Grandma, we cannot understand you. So in Nubian, she said, you want me to talk Arabic while you don't talk Nubian? If you want to understand me, you have to talk my language. And this is how we learned the language. This is how we learned the culture. And but we had a very strong link with the with our family in the village. And even after the resettlement of Nubians, part of our families refused to move with everybody, and they kept on moving with the lake. Once the lake stabilized, they built their last house, and we have a very tight relationship with that part of the family too. So we go to the north and we go to the east too. The displaced Nubians were about 27 villages, and northernmost was the village of Faras, which is nearest to the Egyptian borders. Serre Matto, or Serre East as we call it, is about 100 kilometers away from that border. And there are three major subgroups in that village, which is the Daoudab, the Nouriya, and the Dakin. And we're very proud to be the Keen. I mean, you know, for a child to grow up and they tell you, you are the Keen, whether it be my grandmothers and then my mothers and then my father. I never knew what was the significance of all of this until I grew up, and until, of course, unfortunately, the catastrophe of 1964, where all of them have been displaced. Serre East, unfortunately, now became what we call village number 4, because to forget history, or to make people forget history, we dehumanize them and dehumanize what they love most and cling to most. One of them, their namings, their past, where do they come from? It's not an opposition to the dams as such. We all want electricity and more power, and we would like to have more irrigation canals and lands to irrigate. But it's a question of who we are. The dam over Nubia is not the first. I'm talking about Aswan Dam now here, the big, huge, colossal building. It's not the first. It's the 5th dam over the Nile. And the first thing that was said to the Nubians by the president at that time, and all of those who believed in a new Sudan after independence. Remember, it was 1964. We had our independence January 1959. So the idea of the sacrificial lamb being the Nubian was the slogan. And not only this, unfortunately, many of my father's generations and so on were they had to face the fait accompli, if you like, that people are going to be displaced. So this was one. While Sudanese people, I mean, and I'm quoting here, an uncle of mine, a wise one, Dawood, who said, well, the Sudanese people will never forget this sacrifice for you. Now, the sad reading after 50 years, where we have enough evidence of what this displacement is like, and I'm thinking of this in terms of the new displacement of the Merawi, Manasir Hamadab people right now. After 50 years, when you look at the new land that was acquired by the Nubians, or where the Nubians were displaced to, is a miserable reading, where you have an enormous amount of health problems, you have very bad logistics, and again, massive migration, but this time they look like refugees. There is no one in the east where the Nubians have been resettled, if you like. There is none of them who doesn't have family in or around Khartoum area, that's to say the capital city of Sudan. And why is this? Because there are so many tropical diseases. The chances, the opportunities for employment, education, and so on, all of the logistics are extremely poor. We did not do enough to develop this region, and we have enough time to say, well, you know what, let's have a look and see in these 40 years, how did we do? We look at it and we say, it's a failure. It's a failed experience. We cannot do it again. Millions of wonderful land has been flooded, lost to us, and above all, the archaeological finding that's in there. Now, the rest of Nubia, which is the land of the Mahas and the Sikkot, and going into Dungulaw, these are subgroups of Nubians, or they are Nubians, or subdivisions of Nubians. They are, there was intention of building a dam in 1995. I mean, we're saying intention because up to now we don't know what is going to happen. It's just like a nightmare or a threat. Every now and then we come up with the idea, or we hear the president talking about reviving this project, which is Kajabar. And now they want to build another 2 dams on the bend of the Nile. So that is why, of late, it became, it kind of opened the wounds. And many of the Nubian communities are against the building of these dams. If they build the Kajabar Dam, this would be the last of the wonderful Nubian land. And here we're not talking about 50,000 in the Sudanese border. We are talking about 99 villages along the Nile. We are talking about 1.5 million people. We are talking about 1 million acres of fertile land. We are talking about the last prestigious date palms that people live on. We are talking about archaeology that we did not even scratch the surface of. So there are many reasons that Nubian communities are against this dam. And the way that the government is retaliating is simply violates all human rights. Now we have an enormous amount of concern, of anger, of Nubian communities, and I haven't met one who is not concerned about the dams being built on Nubian land. Dams alone, these big colossal dams, are not a solution. I would like to have a dialogue, would like to open it up to have much more expertise. From my point of view personally, I would like to have more experts on wind and solar energy, and I think we can do that. If we have to go to the rivers and start damming them, not these colossal projects, small dams with small electrical power. The idea is we need electricity. We are not romanticizing Nubia. We do not want it to be a closed kind of can where we talk about the culture and we talk about the history of it, the archaeological findings and all of this. No, we would like to open Nubia. It has to come up to the 21st century. There are enormous amount of problems. We need fridges to keep our antidotes, our malaria medicines, all of this. But the idea, you cannot do it through dams. And the major thing is most of the electricity generated in Nubia or in Marawi goes to other cities while these people are in the dark. It's not about being sacrificial lamb anymore. It is becoming part and parcel of this big country that we call Sudan.